If you've been paying attention to the shape, you might have noticed that he's been on a bit of an accusation spree recently. First in the crosshairs were the Ouija brothers over Pramgate, where he accused them of staging the whole thing. While a lot of debunkers were critical of the placement of the pram, as it was clearly close to the edge, the word staged has certain implications to it. To stage something implies intent. To the shape's credit, I was present in another channel's chat at one point where he was also present and said that his words were probably too harsh and that staged implies a kind of malicious intent, and that's not what he was actually meaning to put across. At the same time, that video is still called "The Ouija Brothers Set This Up to Fall on Purpose," so I'm not sure whether that retraction really means anything or whether I dreamed it. That's not why we're gathered here today, though. This time, his target is popular reactor, gamer, and debunker John Wolfe. John came onto my radar back when the Cody and Satori drama was first kicking off. He makes long-form debunking videos that mix humor, entertainment, advertisements for meal delivery services, and debunking. I find his videos entertaining, engaging, and most importantly, educational. That kind of smuggled Trojan horse education that doesn't feel like you're being bashed over the head with it. So when I saw a video by The Shape titled "John Wolfe, Master of Debunking," it made me raise an eyebrow. What had John done? The video makes a number of accusations, ranging from wild speculation to incredible pettiness, but they mostly focus on one video that John released at the end of March 2025 about the bodies. John's video concentrates primarily on debunking a full-body apparition that the boys claim to have caught on camera, but also includes smaller segments about questionable moments from other videos. Before we get started, I would like to remind anyone watching this that my channel is not about attacking people. I disagree with an opinion that The Shape holds, but I don't think he's a bad person or stupid or anything like that. Remember that good people are capable of holding poorly researched opinions, and they are also capable of learning and growing. Also, try to remember that you may not know who I am and you may enjoy Shape's content, but ask yourself over the course of this video whether the evidence that he offered was sufficient to support his accusations. The first accusation that The Shape makes is that John Wolfe is copying his style, specifically by inserting his own face into a video.
John Wolfe, I didn't know you put yourself into your videos. I do that too. What a coinky dink. John Wolfe, when did you start putting animations of yourself into the creepy location? Comment below if he's done this before. I don't recall. I do that. Told you guys, we're psychically connected. What more evidence do you need?
While The Shape uses the phrase psychically connected to describe this, if you take away the couching and flowery language, it's clear that he's accusing John of stealing his bit. Out of all the accusations, this is the one that strikes me as being incredibly petty. It baffles me that this is an accusation that's being made. Like, The Shape believes that his presentation style is so unique that there is no way that John could possibly have come up with the same style unless it had been lifted directly from The Shape's own video. If we apply the same logic to The Shape's own style, it means he must have taken it from somewhere else and failed to give credit. Here's an animation from the early 2000s that uses a style of mouth puppetry that is eerily reminiscent of what The Shape uses. This is also the kind of face that Monty Python used all the time. Because of that existing prior art, we must assume that the shape stole from it. It would be an incredibly stupid thing to say, but we're just applying the same logic that the shape has. That's just my opinion on the issue, or the non-issue, as I see it. But because I have a functional keyboard, I shot John Wolfe a quick message to see what he thought of it. He said I was free to share his response, and his only request of me was that I make it clear that when he replied, he had not seen the Shapes video. His responses are to an outline of the accusations that I provided to him.
The reason I inserted myself into my debunk on The Boys was because the ghost was named John, so they had a lot of scenes where they were talking directly to John. That was the only reason for the bit. And again, no offense to the Shape, but while I'm familiar with his name because he's commented on my videos in the past, I haven't actually watched his content, and I wouldn't know that he does a similar bit. Great minds think alike, though.
The Shape also brings up this crude diagram that John uses to illustrate the layout of a scene and the cameras filming it. Here's what John had to say.
The hand-drawn graphics is more of a budgetary thing, and I needed to whip something up quickly, so I thought a map made in Paint would be charming. It seems like an intuitive way to showcase a simplified view of a scene with a lot of moving parts.
That makes perfect sense to me. When creating content, you often need to make things that are good enough to get a concept over to an audience, but not so good that it delays the production schedule by hours or days. Certain types of diagram also have an expected design language that can confuse people if you deviate from it. In John's diagram, he uses lines to represent walls, which is very common when a scene is viewed from above, as a property of most walls is that they're straight. He also uses circles to represent people, as this kinda looks like the top of someone's head viewed from above. He uses a view cone to represent what a camera can see. This is all very common and easily understood by people who have seen this kind of diagram before. There's a video game called Metal Gear Solid, which was created almost 30 years ago, which uses a strikingly similar format for its minimap: lines for walls, circles for people, view cones for line of sight. 30 years ago. Shape, did you copy your diagrams from Hideo Kojima? Did you credit him for those diagrams? You might want to think about crediting him. He deserves the recognition. Moving on from the petty world of bizarre art theft accusations, let's examine a more serious one. The meat of Shape's video makes the allegation that John is taking other people's debunks and not crediting them when he does. He uses 3 different examples to make this accusation, and I'll start out by showing you what John had to say about watching other debunkers in general, as this applies to everything that follows.
Well, to be honest, I watch very few debunking videos. Debunkers collectively put out a lot of content, and it's just a lot to keep up with. So my TLDR response to these points is that I simply haven't seen the videos that the Shape is talking about.
Now let's cover the first debunk that the Shape brings up. This one is by Mythos Paranormal.
Oh yes, the old bathroom stall. Remember the one Mythos done where the guy was in the stall, slammed the door? That one. But John called it. John Wolfe called it as well. Let's look at what he says here.
Knock on the 3rd stall 3 times, after which you say, "Are you there, Hanako-san?"
I don't feel good.
The boys tried to invoke the notorious Japanese spirit Hanako-san by knocking on a bathroom stall. When they turn the lights off and knock, they claim the spirit is in the stall.
All right, ready?
Yeah.
Wow, real paranormal activity caught on camera. But let's go back to when the stall door is pulled closed, and we'll just brighten up that footage and slow it down.
Where have I heard that before? Oh yeah.
Let's just take a look back at what happened, because did you see it?
Yeah.
Let's brighten that up. Yeah, so once brightened up, you can literally see someone inside.
Now, it looks nice and dark in there at the normal brightness you see on YouTube, but if you alter the gamma, you can see the murky image of a person. And when the door is pulled shut, you can see what appears to be a wristwatch or maybe just their sleeve.
He is definitely psychically linked to Mythos.
And if you look down where that little metal-like fixing bit is, you can see someone's little glint of maybe a watch or something.
John Wolfe has a psychic link to Mythos as well.
This is a very simple debunk. There's a stall door that closes on its own. There's a gap in the door that gives a view into a dark area inside the bathroom stall. The natural thing that any debunker would do is to increase the brightness of the image to see if any detail within that area becomes visible. That is bread and butter debunking. Make the video brighter and see if there's anything hidden in the darkness. Everyone does it. Shape also seems to say that the phrasing is similar between Mythos and John, but without really going into it. I have to assume he means the general structure as well as the terms used. Showing the whole event first, without saying anything, to give full context, allows the viewer to follow along with the debunk. If the viewer has no idea what's being debunked, it's harder to keep up with what's being shown. It's very common for a debunker to play the clip in full and then say something similar to, "Let's take a look at that again," when they start their analysis. If they come to similar conclusions, they're also likely to use somewhat similar language to describe that. There are only so many ways of saying that you increased the brightness and saw something. There's going to be overlap. On the subject of not giving Mythos credit for this debunk, John said,
The bathroom stall debunk? Like brightening up the footage to show there was someone in the stall? Well, that seems to me like the only way to debunk that scene, so not sure what an alternative idea would be. I will say that I have watched Mythos several times before, mostly his Cody and Satori videos, and I have given him at least 2 shoutouts in 2 different videos. One for his explanation of how ghost hunting flashlights work, and one for his observations about Cody's ankle popping. So it would be very out of character for me to use his material a 3rd time, but not credit him when I've gladly credited him twice before. Just trying to provide some reasoning other than I hadn't seen it before, which is also true.
John can't give credit if he hasn't seen a video. He doesn't need to give credit if no credit is due. Just because someone gets there first doesn't mean everyone else has to be aware of it. This isn't like patent law, where you have to go check with a central office whether someone has invented something yet. The next piece of alleged content theft is from one of the Shape's own videos. This one is about Sam and Colby and their use of an EMF meter near an electrical outlet, which is a terrible idea.
Not only that, he did a debunk a while back on a suspicious outlet, plug-in electrical outlet, and I want you to take a look at it. Now, the quality ain't good, but it's good enough to understand what I'm showing you. Take a look at this clip out of John Wolfe's video.
Yo, dude, that's weird. There's no like electrical anything in that corner there.
Did you see it?
Sam is literally pointing the EMF meter at an electrical outlet on the wall.
What, that's not enough to prove that we're psychically linked? Well, look at the video I did on that very clip, that very outlet.
Yo, dude, that's weird.
There's no like electrical anything in that corner there.
No electrical? Then what is that right there? Because that looks like an outlet to me.
This comes back to common sense debunking for me. EMF meters measure electrical fields. They shouldn't be used near live power lines. An investigator pointing a meter at an electrical outlet and making the claim, "There's no power over there," is going to elicit similar responses from any person who can clearly see the outlet.
I'm not sure I'd qualify the electrical outlet EMF thing as a debunk. I'd have to rewatch it, but I think I framed that more as a comedic bit than anything. But again, I hadn't seen his video on it.
I think we've seen enough accusations at this point to talk about debunking in general for a little while. I think sometimes we can get a bit cocky and start believing that we have these incredible abilities to look at something and figure out how it occurred. But really, we're not that special. We're just willing to go to the effort of making a video about something. When you start thinking that there's no way someone else could come up with a similar take for things that are simple to figure out, to the point where you're willing to accuse another person of not crediting you, it's delusional, would be the extreme way of describing it. Big-headed or egotistical would be more polite. I am not that special. You are not that special. Other people can come to the same conclusions that we do without ever having watched our content. Anyway, the last stolen debunk accusation that I believe needs addressing is where the shape says that John took this debunk from World of Mr. Grey.
I've caught this kind of thing before in viral ghost clips. See this? The edge of the wall right here? Watch it disappear right there.
I remember that catch. And comment below, because I am not sure on this, but didn't World of Mr. Grey catch that exact same debunk? I'm not sure, but comment below, let me know. And if you know the video, please link me.
John had this to say about it.
Wow, the grave masking thing is really old. I did that on a live stream like 2 years ago. I don't think the full VOD is available anymore, but I watched that whole Nuke's Top 5 video live, and it was a blind watch. I wasn't aware of debunking YouTubers at the time. This is back when I was simply doing react videos. My reaction video is also cut up a lot. In the full live version, there was an embarrassing amount of time, 10 plus minutes, of me zooming in and slowing down the footage repeatedly to catch the masking. I would think that if I had watched Mr. Grey ahead of time and said, haha, I'm going to steal this debunk for my stream later, it would be to make me look smart, right? So it would have defeated the purpose of stealing it for me to sit there zooming in and out repeatedly like a dunce. But with all that said, I also haven't watched Mr. Grey's content before, aside from maybe one video about Cody and Satori back in the day. I went on a big Conjuring House debunking kick.
I don't think I need to expand on that. He hasn't seen Mr. Grey's video. Here's where you have to ask the question. Is there any real evidence that John viewed other people's content and took their conclusions without giving credit? For me, the evidence presented is almost non-existent. The shape makes a bunch of accusations based on him feeling like conclusions are similar. This is not a H-bomber guy style expose that brings all the receipts with tens and hundreds of examples of text that have been rearranged and altered, but is clearly plagiarized. This is not that. This, in my opinion, looks like a man who, for whatever reason, formed the impression that John was taking content. And then confirmation bias led him down a path of seeing what he wanted to see, even if it just isn't there. Maybe the shape is right. Maybe John is this content theft mastermind who can't keep getting away with it. But the evidence presented is bad. You should not make accusations like this based on gut feelings and pettiness. If you're not willing to put the work in to prove something to a reasonable degree of certainty, don't make a video about it. The shape mentions in his comment section on the video that he likes John's content, and he's been watching for many years. Why not just ask John if he forgot to credit people? Is that not something you should be willing to do for a person who you respect and whose content you enjoy, I worry that I know the answer already, and it's that if you ask someone to answer your questions, you might not then be able to make a video, or at least not in the way that you would like to. Debunking videos have a problem. That problem is there is not enough paranormal content to comment on several times a week, which is the production schedule of some channels. Or at least not paranormal videos where something new can be said about them. Sure, you can rehash the same things you've said about that channel 5 times already, but it isn't interesting. So that's where the drama comes in. If you can insert drama to a subject, you can have a back and forth with other creators for weeks. And that's my worry, is that people would rather drama farm for content than to have an actual conversation with someone. I know some people will say, Goose, he was joking, can't you take a joke? But he isn't joking, and it's not funny. This kind of accusation is serious. It can be career-ending. It can have serious implications for people's mental health. One more thing to comment on before I go back to sleep. Toward the end of the video, Shape says, if John did this, and uses the phrase, I'll give him the benefit of the doubt. How is this video a benefit of the doubt? If this were a benefit I was offered, I would refuse it. The natural benefit, again, would be to privately message that person and ask them if they did it. Making a public video where you accuse them of doing these things is not a benefit.